Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hump Day edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Rick. I'm in Columbia, joined today by Jill in Myrtle Beach, Ella in the upstate in Greenville, and Kevin down in the port city of Charleston. A lot of stuff floating around today about the Gamecock baseball head coaching job and Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall. A lot of reports saying it's on the verge of happening almost at any hour. My sources tell me that probably do not expect anything, possibly maybe until Friday, and maybe not even then. More likely it'll be early next week because it looks like Coach Snall is not a shoe-in to get the job, that they're looking at some other people whose teams are playing in super regionals. So that makes sense that we wouldn't hear anything until next week when some of these guys are freed up. You know, Steve Saban's from West Virginia. His name has come up. James Ramsey, Kansas Dan Fitzgerald, Georgia Tech's James Ramsey. So that's where we stand. So I'm not looking forward to anything happening until early next week. But there's a lot of speculation out there on social media, and sometimes I look at some of this stuff and I just have to shake my head. But that's where we are.
Yeah, we're dealing with the same thing over here. It's a lot of speculation. He said, she said. People are trying to get confirmations, and it doesn't seem like we're getting that anytime soon, quite honestly. We hear that there's sources saying Schnall's expected to announce something today. Then we hear an hour later, don't expect anything official until much later in the week. It's just going a lot back and forth. And there's also the consideration of like what might happen if he were to leave. Kevin?
That I'm actually really interested in about is what Coastal Carolina is going to do, because there's some big names that have come up. Should Schnall decide to leave Coastal and go to South Carolina? We'll get to that in a minute, though. But sticking with the Schnall, I guess, non-news at this point, because we've been waiting for a few hours now for something to come out from either Kevin Schnall or from South Carolina, and we haven't heard anything. And I think, like Rick said, the more this drags on, the more I'm thinking that South Carolina has interest in some other guys besides Kevin Schnall. I think if this was a search where they were just laser focused on Kevin Schnall, I think this would probably be done by now. I think the fact that this keeps dragging on, I think it's Steve Saban's, the guy from West Virginia. I think they at least want to talk to him, and they really should. He's done a great job in a couple of years getting West Virginia to their first ever super regional, or right on the verge of their first ever College World Series, I should say. So he's definitely someone at least worth talking to and seeing what he's got in his plans for the future of a program. So I think the timeline that Rick laid out kind of makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah, I got to imagine so that this is going to be a thing that takes him a long time to make that decision. I mean, when you think of Schnall, you think of a guy who's been at Coastal for such a long time. I can imagine it would be a very hard decision for him to leave. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Jill, but I'm pretty sure he's been there for over 25 years. I'm sure that's going to be hard to say goodbye. He probably has a lot of roots down there, but I kind of want to go around the horn and think like, is this guy the perfect fit for USC? I mean, can we see him being right for South Carolina? What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, we kind of touched on this yesterday. The way the Coastal season ended this year has me a little bit worried if he is the right guy for South Carolina, just because his name has been coming up since pretty much within the first 10 minutes of Paul Mainieri leaving South Carolina. The weeks following that, Coastal was fine. It's this last month where Coastal really kind of fell off a cliff, losing that last series to Louisiana that cost them the regular season championship in the Sun Belt, losing too quickly at the Sun Belt tournament, and then going 2-0 in Tallahassee in the NCAA regional. That kind of makes me wonder, did he have control of his team this season when there were so many outside distractions? I know he talked a lot about the injuries and other things that were going on with this team, but it really made me wonder if he had a good hold on this team as they were getting into Jill.
I think his success in a way kind of just speaks for itself. I mean, you're talking about a team that made it to the College World Series last year, won 37 games this year, despite the fact that what was it, 5 of their best 8 starting pitchers were injured. Yes, things did go awry in this last month. You were sitting at number 9 most of the season, and then you're not even in the conversation to host the regional, and then you get kicked out within that first round. It's a hard way to end it, but to be able to do what they did considering the circumstances is a victory within itself. And they always say like schnall ball, but we'll see if he decides to make that decision to leave. I do think he could be a guy that you would want to turn around a program because he has his mind set on a lot of things, and he would make that happen if that were to be the case.
Okay, when I look at Kevin Schnall, the things that I see are big positive for him is that he was an assistant on the 2016 Coastal team, made it to the College World Series for the first time, and they won it all. And then last year, his first as the Chanticleer's head coach, gets back to the College World Series, and they play for a national championship. They don't win it. Now, if he were to come here to South Carolina, your path to getting to the playoffs becomes much tougher because just look at how many SEC teams are still standing in this postseason. When Ray Tanner had things really going with the Gamecocks, he'd go down to the SEC tournament not needing to win a game or two because they already locked in lots of those years as a top 8 national seed. So you win a regional, you're going to host a super regional. That's going to be a bit of a challenge for Coach Snall coming in, I think.
Yeah, and so far today, the favorite thing that I've seen on social media is Coastal Carolina fans kind of coming to grips with the fact that Schnall might be leaving, and a couple saying, we're going to get an upgraded head coach, which is just bargaining to the 10th degree of trying to convince yourself this is going to be a good thing. But we've seen some pretty big names mentioned for this opening already, and this is all just social media chatter that we've seen so far. But you're seeing guys like Chris Lemonis, the former Mississippi State head coach, who won a national championship there with the Bulldogs just a couple of years ago. Monty Lee, the former Clemson, College of Charleston, and South Carolina interim head coach. His name has been mentioned a little bit. He's a guy who's never left South Carolina as a head coach. So I got to assume, or as an assistant coach, I should say. So you got to assume he'd like to stay in this state if he could. He's such a great recruiter. I think that would be a good hire for Coastal Carolina as well. Also, Russell Triplett, the head coach at the Citadel, a guy who just took the Bulldogs to their first NCAA tournament in 16 plus years. He's done a great job. His name is getting thrown around a little bit as well. So let's go around one more time. I'll start with you, Jill. Who is a guy that you'd like to see Coastal kind of targeted in this head coaching search?
Right now there's a lot of names obviously being thrown out there. It also feels like people are just tossing out names as they want to see on Twitter who these fans want to see themselves. So that's a whole other conversation of who's actually being considered. But Chris Lemons, he's also from Myrtle Beach. So there is that factor of just coming back home, and he did such a great job with that Mississippi State team in that 2021 season, getting them to that College World Series and ultimately winning. He's a great contender. I don't know if Monty Lee would actually be something that the fans would want to see, only because of how this last season did transpire for the Gamecocks. There has been a little bit of a back and forth on social media over that name being tossed out there. Ella?
Well, I guess I'll answer this in two different ways. I'll answer with my head and I'll answer with my heart. I think realistically, Chris Lemons is going to be one of the more likely choices. Jill, you mentioned exactly what I was going to say. He's from the area. He wants to be back home. I can imagine that that's the route that they would go, and he's a great coach. But then I would love to see Russell Triplett in there. I think after the season that the Citadel had, the team that he put together in that group of young men was a blast to watch, and I would love to see what he would do with a roster like they have over there at Coastal. Rick, what do you think?
Well, I'm also split because I would love to see Monty Lee get a chance to add a head coaching job and remain in the state because he's from right here in the Midlands. He's from Lugoff, and the experience he has in this state, the relationships he's built with the high school coaching ranks here in this state, that would be a boon to recruiting. But I think Chris Lemonis is, you couldn't go wrong with him because he knows how to get to Omaha and win it. So I think Coastal they'd have a nice pool of candidates to choose from. It's just, are they going to look out and get the right guy?
Yeah, it's also just the big if and when this happens thing. It's a long waiting game, so now it's just leading to just a lot of speculation on if he's even leaving at all. So we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. But I do agree with you. It would be nice to see him get a shot. But I also think that there are so many other names being thrown around as well. And we'll take a quick break here, right here on Palmetto Sports Daily.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Talking some football now. We have OTAs underway. Phase 1 of rookie camp is now gone, and now we got the optional training days. So you kind of got to think to yourself, you got to have a pretty good reason not to be there. And for the Panthers, they have a little extra motivation this year, making it to the playoffs. Last year, for the first time in nearly a decade, they got a little bit of a fire lit under their belt. We were there yesterday talking to coaches and players about how that playoff push has now become motivation for this year. Here's what some of the players had to say about how that's motivating them in this offseason.
I can just see how far we can go as a team. I can see in the locker room, you go in there, you can see how close-knitted guys are, offense, defense, special teams. Everyone's just close together. And then we go out on the field and we work hard.
I think last season, coming to season, we had the same idea. We're trying to just go 1-0 every week. But I think guys got a little chip on their shoulder. We're hungry. We see what's there. It was nice to taste the playoffs, but we see what's there. So we just got to put the work in.
Head coach Dave Canales in his third year, he kind of talked about how he feels like his roster can handle more this year, and it was kind of an interesting way to put everything and an interesting perspective of using that terminology, handle more. I went on to ask him about how the playoff push can also help them to handle more, and he had a lot of great things to say about how this team is completely prepared to do so and keep checking off more accomplishments and more goals as they move forward. Rick, what are you expecting out of this team this year? Do you think that they have the probability of making it to the playoffs again and maybe winning a game this time?
Well, what I love to hear, I was listening to Jonathan Brooks yesterday, and he was talking about how everyone seems to be really together. It's not the offensive guys hanging out, defensive guys hanging out, but they're all together. Offense, defense, special teams. And after you have some success, because, the Panthers, they had some pitiful seasons before last year. And so they make the playoffs, and now the guys know, okay, we know what it takes. We are all fighting for a common goal. And so, yeah, I think they can make the playoffs again this year. Definitely.
See, to me, this feels like the classic step back team. A team that kind of overachieved a little bit last season, and now they're going to play a much tougher schedule this year because they're playing a first place schedule after winning that division last year. I kind of expect them to go back a couple of steps this year, maybe just win 6-7 games. I think they're going to miss out on the playoffs again. Maybe the year after that, Bryce Young can still take a step forward as a quarterback and the team not win as much as they did this past season. So I think that as a team, they're going to step back. Hopefully Bryce Young gets a little bit better. And then the next year when their schedule's a little bit easier, I can see them going back to the playoffs.
Yeah, I could possibly see that. Rick, I kind of wanted to go back to what you were saying because that gives me the other perspective of what you're saying, Kevin. I think it was very interesting hearing from Jonathan Brooks about that environment that they're feeling in that locker room, especially in the running back room, because that's a place where there's a lot of competition in there and they are fighting for a spot. I mean, Dave Canales does tend to go for a 1-2 punch type of situation when it comes to his running backs, but that doesn't mean there is not 3 incredibly talented running backs in that room who are going to be fighting for that number 1 and number 2 spot. So to hear that they still have their backs, they still feel that family environment in the room, and they feel closer than ever, makes me feel encouraged that they're going to have a pretty good season next year and maybe continue making history. Rick, what do you think?
Well, Ella, I'm really interested in seeing Jonathan Brooks in a game to see how he looks. He had to sit out all of last year, and basically he's bouncing back from 2 knee injuries. So from your perspective, how did he look out there on the practice field?
Well, it was interesting. I think he looked good. We only, how it works out there with practice and media availability. We were only really allowed to be out there for about 15 minutes, but we were talking to him in that press conference after practice, and someone asked him, "Have you hit your top speed yet? How good does it feel to hit that top speed?" And someone asked, "What is your top speed?" He's like, "I don't know yet, but I'm hitting it, and it feels really good." So that was very encouraging to hear for him, and to have a first rounder finally get back out there again is going to be fun to see. But we're going to take a break here on Palmetto Sports Daily and be right back after this.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We move over to hockey where the Stanley Cup Finals kicking off last night, and the Carolina Hurricanes unable to hold on to home ice advantage in this final round of the playoffs as they drop game one of the series to Las Vegas 5-4. Las Vegas scoring a goal with under 4 minutes to go. Carolina actually had a good-sized lead in the first period. It went back and forth after that, but the Knights come up with the game-winning goal with under 4 minutes to go in that third period, and they steal game one on the road and claim home ice advantage from there. So, guys, game two coming up, I believe, tomorrow night. Ella, your thoughts on what's next for the Hurricanes?
Well, I mean, redemption has to be next after this. I wasn't able to tune into that entire game, but when I was tuning in, they were up 2-0. Things were looking great. They were playing great. And then I don't know what happened. I turned off my TV and then things went south for them. What do you guys think needs to change for them to hold on to that confidence? I mean, I got to assume that had to have been kind of a nerve situation. I mean, it's been 20 years since they were in the Stanley Cup final. So, might be the nerves, Jill. What do you think?
I mean, that place was absolutely bumping and rocking from the start, and they came out hot. They put up so many goals at the beginning, and that's what Carolina and just the Canes do in general. They can score fast, but it's just going to be able to maintain and hold that lead and just hold the Knights out and make sure we're kind of playing the best defense that they can play within transition. You don't want to let Vegas go hot and fast on transition and just limit just power plays in general. Obviously, you want to do that anytime in hockey, but especially right now. Rick, what are your thoughts?
It's got to be a little disheartening for the Canes and their fans. Like you said, that atmosphere was great. I really enjoyed that. And then they score their first goal within 25, 30 seconds, and they're up 2-0. And I'm thinking, man, this is going to be a rout. But then it was like back and forth. And like you said, Jill, they, their defense, they need to tighten that up if they want to, win the cup.
Yeah, it could have just been an instance of karma coming back to bite them for stealing a franchise from a blue-collar city like Hartford, Connecticut 30 years ago. So I'll just put that out there as well. This town of dirty, rotten thieves just taking a team, and they're not going to get rewarded with a championship. Maybe that's all it is.
So, Kevin, do you hate all of the teams here in the U.S.? Because it seems like the teams south of the border, they've taken all the shine and luster away from the Canadian teams and even your beloved Boston Bruins. So, man, you got to let it go.
No,
let it go. It's going to be all right.
No, I got no problem with the teams in Florida that were expansion franchises and put there. I have a problem with taking a team from a city that loved that team and deserved that team and just stealing it right from under them. That's what I have the problem with.
Wow, such a bitter man.
What are you, new here?
We're going to take a break, and we're going to let Kevin think about what he just said. This is Palmetto Sports Daily.
Thought about it for 30 years. I'm fine with it.
Hello and welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Got some exciting news happening down here, or up here rather, in the upstate for the Greenville Triumph. They are opening up their brand new stadium. It has been a long time coming, and they finally cut the ribbon, and today tonight is the big night, finally debuting that new stadium in Malden. Let me tell you guys, this area, Bridgeway Station, looks like you just put Europe inside of South Carolina. It's stunning. It's a great spot. I'm so excited to go see this evening, and these players are so excited to go play on that pitch. Here's what they had to say.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect platform for the team, for a professional environment like that where fans know where to go. That's going to be the home stadium. We're going there to watch the games, and I think it's going to be huge for Triumph and big for the community too. And we're just biting at the bit to get out there and play the first game there. I mean, it's such a nice venue and such a nice stadium and field, and we just can't wait.
As someone who grew up playing soccer their entire life and also lived in Spain for quite a while, it makes me very excited to see soccer becoming such a huge central part of the United States this year with the World Cup, and also just in general to see South Carolina expanding on the sport. Jill, this is happening not just for men's teams, but also for women's as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a large expansion of men's and women's teams, but especially in the NWSL for those women's teams. There's a new team up in Boston that's playing now, and we're seeing these big stars show out as well. Patrick Mahomes showing up, all these big name football players, and it's great for the sport of soccer and just great for women's sports in general, just getting this much attention. And a brand new stadium and a specific stadium facility is always great to have.
Yeah, it certainly is. The Greenville Triumph has been playing at Furman University pretty much the entire time that I was a student there. So they really didn't have a home base. So for them to be laying down their roots and having a place that families can go, spend some time together, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful place to go. They're having a fan fest this evening that we're heading out to. And then the most exciting part is that we're going to be airing these on Palmetto Sports. So stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Have a good evening.